Greetings from Bicycling Magazine. This is James Start with Frankie Andreo, and we are standing at the foot of the Ehrenberg Forest, one of the most treacherous cobblestone sections in all of bicycle racing. Frank, you have ridden this section, I don't know how many times, 10, 15, 20 times. You're a great cobblestone rider.
20 would be very generous. Maybe 10 times, but I've definitely gone through this. And I've had times where I've been forced to ride down the middle and the bricks the whole entire way, and it's extremely difficult. Gradual downhill and then a gradual uphill. And other times we've been able to get off to the side, which is what you see very common that a lot of riders do on other sections of the cobbles, you know, trying to look for that smooth part of the pavement, which there really isn't any, which is on the side. But when you ride on the side, you risk flatting, and you know, and that's a bigger delay. So ideally, you want to ride in the middle of the bricks. You want to try and stay on top of the crown because that's where it's less slippery. And there obviously, some riders think there's not a technique, but I believe there's a technique to riding the cobbles.
Do you? I had a kind of dubious honor once or twice of riding in training the cobbles with Tom Boonen. The one thing that struck me is they would hit the cobbles, and then there would sort of be a pause or a lull, and then they would slowly re-accelerate as they go through it. Is that something that happened during the races?
Well, during the races, there's this massive fight for position to be in the front when you get to the cobbles. And if you're in position in the front, once you get to the cobbles, there is a little bit of a lull because you have your position, you can kind of rest, regroup, kind of pause, and after you get about halfway through, you kind of start ramping it up to kind of string it out the back on the section of cobbles. But part of getting through the cobbles, some guys will adjust their position. Lower their saddle a little bit, raise their stem a little bit. It's all, you know, whatever your preference is.
Tire pressures.
Tire pressure, obviously. Wheel selection's a big choice. But definitely a big part of it is just having a light grip on the handlebars, using your arms relaxed so that they're like the shock absorbers on the bikes. If you grip the handlebars tightly, I can remember after Pave, my knuckles, my wrist, my hand, it's so sore it could barely move. And so it's a good thing. And that's the reason you lower the saddle a little bit, so your legs are a little bit of the shock absorbers, because you get rattled from beginning to end.
How about gear choice? The other thing I noticed with the quick step guys that day, I thought you come through here and it's all about momentum and turning over a big gear so you don't bounce so much, but they were a lot of the times in their little ring.
Yeah, it depends on how, you know, coming into the Ehrenberg, you're going fast because it's a little bit downhill section. But yeah, you want to keep kind of the gears turning over because you want to kind of keep it relaxed and you got to keep momentum. It's kind of like with the car with the RPMs. Keep the RPMs a little bit high because once you bog down, if you're using big gears all the time and you bog down, you lose your power. And once you lose your power in your watts, it's not like sitting in a draft. Every time you hit a brick, it feels like it's slowing you down like 1 kilometer an hour.
Yeah, what's amazing
and by the end, then you got to get off and walk.
It's all about momentum, and when you lose it, you feel every rock in the road, and these are big rocks. I talked to the Friends of Paris-Roubaix that takes care of some of these, because some of these sections are landmarks and they're protected.
They're historical.
Yeah, and I think it's about 7 kilos for one of these rocks. That's a lot of rock, you know.
That's how much it weighs?
One of those, just one of them. I could be wrong. It could be 9. Could be
no.
11,
That's a lot. That's a lot. But I mean, when you see these things too, as the way they're laid out, it's like you can't even imagine walking over them, much less the guys riding their bikes over them. They're not even, they're not balanced, they're all over the place, extremely slippery, especially in the wet, and they're dangerous in the dry. But that's what makes races like Paris-Roubaix, Flanders so special.
Frankie, last thing, in case you didn't notice, we're standing in the rain. Is there a big difference? You did notice that, right?
Yeah, I noticed we were in the rain, and there's a massive difference of racing in the rain or racing in the dry. When you're racing in the rain, the speeds are slower because you can't go flying around the corners as fast. Of course, guys crash. I can remember when I got 8th, when Andre Schmiel won, I didn't know where I was in the race. I was passing guys were passing me, guys were crashing. I remember Gilbert Duclos LaSalle come flying by me. I was like, where the heck did he come from? Gilbert, what did I say?
Gilbert.
Gilbert. And then in the end, when I came out of the velodrome, whatever group I was in, I didn't know what place I was sprinting for. I just sprinted, and I ended up 8th. I was like, hooray. You know, I had no idea. But
pretty awesome.
Definitely different. In the dry, it's extremely fast, and there's nothing to slow them down. And so the dry actually can be a tougher race than in the wet.
Okay. From the Ehrenberg Forest, in the rain, this is James Start with our Paris-Roubaix specialist, Frankie Andreo from Bicycling. Thank you very much.
It's easier standing here than riding through this.
I think so?
Yeah.